This video is brought to you by PremiumBeat.com. Alright, so transitions are extremely popular, and in this video we're going to talk about the most popular type of transitions, which is creating seamless transitions with After Effects. Hey, what's going on internet? This is Josh Noel from SonduckFilm. Welcome to our channel. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So what you see on the screen here is the type of transitions we'll be creating. Very nice seamless transitions with just a few techniques. Very easy to do this type of stuff. But after watching this video, you're gonna have some nice techniques to create your own seamless transitions. So let's go ahead and jump into our video and let's get started. So for our first transition, it's gonna be a very simple slide transition with a little bit of, transform properties affected to it. All right, we'll get started. Go to layer, new adjustment layer, and we'll come here to effect, stylize, and we'll grab motion tile. And this is a great effect because we'll be using it a lot and allows us to repeat our compositions. So we'll come here to the end of our first clip and right before the cut, and we'll add a keyframe for tile center. And we'll move forward in time towards, past the second clip, and we'll move this over by grabbing the X value here, and you hold down shift, we'll move a little bit quicker. And this is very important because, we're going to be able to slide all the way through and try to match this to the edges the best you can. So now we'll have something like this, and that is really cool. And we'll want to hit U on our keyboard to bring up our keyframes, and we'll make both these keyframes easy by hitting F9 on our keyboard. And if you enable motion blur here, you can see that it's just going to be able to be a very basic slide transition, and this could be a technique by itself, but I'd like to do a little bit more than this. So let's go to Effect, Distort, and we're going to grab Transform. And I'm going to come here to skew, and I'm going to skew this by a little bit. And you can see that we're skewing our image, but one thing I want to do is bring this effect above our motion tile effect. And now our edges are repeated. So just a little before and after, you can see it adds like a little bit of a nice skew to this. So what we'll do here is add a keyframe for skew past the first keyframe. We'll move back to that first keyframe and set the skew down to 0. So then it'll kind of just move right into that, and we'll hit U to bring up all the keyframes. And right before the end here, we'll come to the last keyframe, and we'll just add a keyframe for skew, and we'll go to the last keyframe here and set the skew back down to 0 and stretch that out by a little bit, and then we can make all these keyframes easy ease. So that looks pretty cool, but one thing I also like to do is maybe come here to uniform scale, uncheck that, and we can increase the scale width by a little bit. And then we'll just have to do the same things again, and we'll come here scale width, and we'll add a keyframe for that, and we'll need to just put that there, add another keyframe towards the end, and then we'll need to set the scale width back to 100 at the first and last keyframes, and then we'll make them easy ease keyframes. And I'll actually make the tile center drag out by a little bit more. And if you want, we can enable mirror edges for our motion tile, and this will just make it seem a little bit more seamless. So I think that's a pretty simple first transition, just moving from left to right. And before we move further into some more techniques, I want to say thank you to PremiumBeat.com for sponsoring this video. PremiumBeat is a royalty-free music provider for your creative video and motion graphic projects. They have an extremely popular library with thousands of songs to choose from, and they have a very easy in-depth search and menu filter system that allows you to quickly find the best songs for your video. So for your next video project, be sure to check out PremiumBeat.com for your royalty-free music. Alright, so we're going to create this transition technique right here, and it's really easy to create this. So let's go ahead and turn off our adjustment layer, and let's go to layer, new adjustment layer, create another one. And we'll go to effect, stylize, and we're going to grab motion tile. And we'll come a little bit before our cut here on our first clip, and we'll add a keyframe for tile center. We'll move past the second clip, just maybe by a second, and we can move this in any direction we want. We'll take the Y value here and bring this down, and we'll close this up. Bam. And we'll hit U on our keyboard to bring up keyframes and make both these keyframes easy ease keyframes by hitting F9. So now, boom, we got our nice little transition there. And then we'll go to Effect, Distort, and we're going to grab Optics Compensation, and we'll increase the field of view to maybe 80 or so, and check on Reverse Lens Distortion. And maybe we'll go up to like 120-ish, and you can see that, we're really distorting the edges here. So we'll go ahead and we'll add a keyframe for field of view, and we'll move this keyframe forward in time and set the field of view down to 0. So of course nothing will be affected, and then it gets distorted. And we'll move forward here, add a keyframe right before our last one, and go to our last keyframe and set this down to 0. So now things are being pulled towards us, and that looks really cool. And I want to take this distortion a little bit further, so go to Effect, Distort, and we're going to grab CC Lens. And we'll come here and increase the size to like 300. Awesome. And then we'll come here to the beginning, and of course we'll add a keyframe for the size. we'll move forward here to like halfway through, and we'll set this, you know, maybe down to 100-ish, you know, like maybe 112, and then we'll come here to the end and we'll increase our size all the way back up to about 400, 300 to 400. So now it just adds just a little bit more distortion to it, makes the distortion a little bit more noticeable. Then let's go to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and we're gonna grab the directional blur, and you know, we want to be able to blur out in the direction we're moving. So we'll go here and increase the blur length, you know, maybe like 112 or something, and you can see we can change the direction, and I'm just gonna kind of keep it in some vertical pattern here. And then of course we'll add a keyframe for blur length. We'll hit U on our keyboard to bring up the keyframes. We'll move this forward and we'll set this down to 0, and then we'll come forward here towards the end and we'll add a keyframe for blur length, make sure that's up there, and then come here to the end and set this down to 0. Alright, awesome. And we'll go ahead and make all these keyframes easy by hitting F9 on our keyboard. And of course, let's turn on motion blur. Now our transition is ready to go, and that looks really nice. And for our third and final transition, we'll be creating this distortion zoom, you know, transition, which is really nice. We have a little bit of RGB splitting, and it's very easy to do. Alright, so we'll create a new adjustment layer like we've been doing, and this time we'll go to Effect, Distort, and we're going to grab Transform. And we'll come to the point where we want our transition to start. We'll add a keyframe for scale. We'll come here to the cut and we'll scale in just by a little bit, like maybe 1/17 or so. And then we'll come here past our second clip a little bit and set the scale back to 100. So boom, and it comes out. So it's really nice, very subtle. We're not doing anything crazy. Then we'll go to Effect, Distort, and we're gonna grab Optics Compensation again. And we'll come here to our keyframes. We'll add a keyframe for our field of view. Come here to the center, and we'll check on Reverse Lens Distortion. And we'll increase this, you know, maybe back to 100 or so. And then we'll come here and set this down to 0. And if we want, we could scale in just maybe a little bit more. And let's go ahead and maybe make this transition a little bit shorter. That looks good. We'll come here to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and we're going to grab ourselves a radial blur. And we'll come here to the center of the cut again, and we'll add a keyframe for the amount. And we'll come here to our first keyframe, set this down to 0. And then come here to our last keyframes and set this down to 0. Of course, beautiful. And then of course, to make sure we grab all of our keyframes, make the first set of keyframes Easy Ease and the last set Easy Ease keyframes by hitting F9 on our keyboard. Alright, so everything is looking good, but I want to take this a little bit further and grab all of our clips and go to Layer, Pre-Compose. So everything's looking good, but one thing I want to do is add just a little bit of an RGB, you know, split to this. So what we'll do here is we'll grab both of our clips and we'll duplicate them. And let's just kind of chop these up to where the transition is just taking place, like here. So we'll kind of just bring this into our, you know, keyframes here, both these clips. Bring them to the top, and I'll come here and we'll grab both these clips, go to Layer, Pre-Compose, and we'll just call it RGB. Then we'll come here and we'll go to Effect, Channel, and we'll grab Shift Channels, set the green to full off and the blue to full off. We'll duplicate this. We'll set the red to full off and set the green on. We'll duplicate this again, set the green to full off, and set this to blue, this, you know, third value. Then we'll grab our two top layers, toggle switch the modes, and set this to screen. We'll come here to beginning clip, and we'll grab our two top clips, and we'll hit P on our keyboard for position. We'll add a keyframe for these. We'll move forward, and we'll just randomly offset our clips in time. This way we'll get a little bit of a nice RGB split here. And then grab those first keyframes and paste them at the end just so that it goes back to its original position. And then of course, toggle switch modes and make sure motion blur is turned on for everything. And once all said and done, we should have this nice zoom in RGB transition, no problem. And it looks really nice. And of course, any of these techniques can be implemented to the other type of transitions that we did. So the RGB split is a good, you know, technique if you want to add that, you know, distortion type effect to your transitions. And if you're going to work for these type of transitions all the time, I highly suggest taking a look at the handy seamless transitions pack, which has over like 1,000 transitions for After Effects that comes with its own user interface. You'll have drag and drop transitions right into After Effects, and these are some of the best seamless transitions ever because they're built right here into After Effects with, you know, thousands of hours built into them. So how the handy seamless transitions pack works is that we have our own extension right here inside of After Effects, and we can just preview a handful of the transitions before we apply it. We come here to distortion zoom and just take a look what we got. So maybe we want to apply this one, we just click on it and make sure that our transitions at the cut of our two clips. And within just a click of a button, we've been able to apply this transition that has been fully pre-made And we can easily apply tons of these transitions to our clips within minutes instead of having to create these transitions ourselves. And the Handy Seamless Transitions pack is probably the highest quality pack of transitions out there because all the transitions are built inside of After Effects. So if you want to check out this transitions pack, that link will be in the description. Alright, so those are just a few concepts on creating seamless transitions with After Effects, and there's just a handful of different ways you can go about doing this sort of thing. So hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we post multiple post-production tutorials every single week right here on the channel. You can also hit me up on my social media networks. Those links are in the video description, and always be creating.